Yo, what's good, everybody? And thank you for tuning in to another Tyler Perry Sistas review. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning family member, then you already know what it is and what it always will be. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell somebody to tell somebody if you choose to. But if not, just sit back, relax while we get into this thing. I'm not going to call this thing messy because it's not really messy. Now, if you guys, if you have looked at the thumbnail or you saw the caption of this video, you know that we're going to talk about Karen and her postpartum journey as well as her grief journey. And I really wanted to discuss this because there are so many fans who find themselves on the other side of the coin that I'm on. Everyone is free to have their opinion. Everyone is free to have a certain perspective. But it's so many people just out here lying, okay? It is so many people just out here lying and speaking untruths. And I'm just tired of it because now it's making its way to my comment section. And I'm like, no, we just have to discuss this and be all the way real. I don't know who is the person who initiated this thought or put it out there in the social media world, but it is as if 95% of the fandom who is on social media has gravitated to this mindset, because all I'm seeing is Karen would not be acting this way if she would have lost Aaron's baby. She's only acting this way because she lost Zach's baby. She knows that the relationship with him is over. Whatever link, whatever attachment she had to Zach, it has been severed. There is no more. That is why she is acting this way. And if you listen to my trailer breakdown, not the one that was released the other day, but the one from last week, I went on record and said that I think that that is the dumbest shit that the fandom has ever come up with. And this fandom is toxic as hell. The online fandom is toxic as hell. It literally makes no sense. I could somewhat understand if people had something substantial to stand on, even proof. And the things that people have sent to me as proof, it makes no sense. So that is what this video is about. We're going to be talking about this. One thing for sure, I want to highlight what the writers are displaying to us when it comes to Karen's postpartum depression journey. There are so many people in the comments that I have read that begin this way. I understand postpartum depression and grief, but you lost right there. What you need to say is you understand postpartum depression and grief as it pertains to you. Postpartum depression and grief is not a one size fit all. It does not affect people different. It does not affect people the same. Everyone has a different journey when they are dealing with postpartum depression and grief simultaneously. So I want to go back a few episodes because people are saying that if Karen had the choice, she would have chosen for Aaron's baby to die and she would have kept Zach's. That is a total lie. And that is bullshit. For those who just refuse to acknowledge or pretend they don't remember, they got a case of amnesia. Karen told Andy while she was laying in her hospital bed, even if there was the slightest possibility that both of her babies could survive, that's what she wanted. She wanted Andy to make sure that her babies would be taken care of. So Karen in that moment made a decision that if you can save both of my babies, do that, even if it costs me my life. That's a mother. That's someone that is saying at the end of the day, I esteem my kids more than myself. I've already had a chance at this thing called life. And if both of my babies can experience it at the expense of me giving up my life, then that's what I want. Because there are so many people who act as if that moment did not happen. Also, while Karen was in the hospital, she was already grieving the death of her baby before she even knew which baby it was. So that completely destroys the fact she would not be acting this way if a particular man's child survived. Absolutely makes no sense. When you're dealing with postpartum depression, and I do thank every woman who has not counted it robbery to expose their postpartum depression story that is similar to that of Karen's. I have read so many stories, so many comments where people have talked about their journey. I was going through postpartum depression, but I wasn't disconnected from my child. I was going through postpartum depression. However, I didn't treat my baby this way. This is my thing. Okay, y'all know how sisters go. Y'all know the pace of this show. Karen has literally been at home for a few hours. That's it. People are acting as if Karen has been neglecting this child for days, weeks, months. It's literally been maybe 3 hours. It ain't been that long. I'm gonna need y'all to calm down. People are in so much of a hissy that Karen has not held her baby, yet we ain't seen Zach raise his child Michael from a month of Sundays, but ain't nobody talking about his parenting. Ain't nobody saying that he's a bad father. We don't never see that child. If we want to, go by that standard. I said, baby, calm down. There is nothing wrong with Faith. Faith is being well taken care of by her grandmother and her father. She's fine. And just to add in, and I understand because people know how Tyler writes, Tyler is not writing this season. Okay? But I do believe we got some I'm going to call them some Tyler Perryites who's writing this season. So I understand why people feel a certain way. Some people believe that the baby is actually Zach's child, and we going to find that out later. That's not true. They did a test because some people don't even remember Zach mentioning this. And I get it because I felt certain things should have been shown. Zach did tell Fatima there was a test that was done to find out which child it was. And it is his baby. It was Zach's child that passed away. And for so many people who want there to be such a disconnect between Zach and Karen, they want this baby to be Zach's. Help me to understand. And this is when people talk out of both sides of their mouth. What do you want? The reality is, I believe there are a group of people who can't even fathom that Karen does not want Zach romantically. There is nothing that Karen has done in a month of Sundays to prove that she actually wants Zach. Her and Zach have been in spaces and places where it has just been them two, and there has been no funny business. Not even her looking at him longer than she should. Not even a smile that was misplaced. Nothing. There was nothing. She has shown no romantic interest. She has done nothing to show that she has lingering romantic feelings for Zach. Baby girl was even disgusted by the fact that her friends thought it was Zach she was talking about when she told Miss Marie that she has feelings for one of her child's father. And she was like, ugh, not Zach. I have people going back seasons. This is a big one that I get. Karen did not want Aaron's baby. And I said, let's break this thing down, because that is not true in the way I look at it. When Karen first realized that she was pregnant and there was a possibility that that child could belong to Zach or the child could belong to Aaron, she was honest about her feelings. She did not want to start a family with Aaron because, as she stated, she didn't know him that well. Some people said, well, if you didn't know him like that, then you shouldn't have been having sex with him. Did y'all say the same thing to Fatima, who busted wide open for Zach 36 hours after she met the brother? No. So we ain't gonna go there. Everybody got their moments, okay? Everybody got their moments. So no, that wasn't the case. But I understood where she was coming from. Sometimes I think that Karen gets penalized for her honesty. No, I don't want to have a child with this man because I don't know him like that. Yes, I like him, but not to have a family with him. Now, fast forward. When Karen found out that she was carrying 2 babies and that Zach and Aaron fathered one child, never did that woman say, well, you know what? The baby that I have with Aaron, I don't want, but the baby I got with Zach, that's the one I want to keep. She never uttered those words. She fell in love with having 2 children. She had to deal with the fact that there are 2 fathers involved. That became a place of peace because she couldn't change it. This is just what it was. Even more so, I'm like, have we forgotten that Karen and Aaron are actually together? Like, that's her man, her man, her man. I don't get it. The things I have seen that people have stated about Karen wanting Zach, understanding things are not the same. It's been over. Things ain't been the same for a long time. So I don't understand the logic. And I always say I'm definitely open to communicating with people who have a different opinion than mine. But when we do have these back and forths in the DM and things of that nature, it always falls short because a lot of times, even on Twitter, I pop on Twitter and I pop out. I say what the hell I got to say and I get off because it's dirty waters over there and I ain't trying to get wingworms. So I don't really, swim in the Twitter water streets, but I be over there from time to time. You know what I'm saying? And it's just really interesting to me and really disgusting, some of the things that people say. And people be going back and forth with children. You're literally probably communicating with a 16, 17-year-old who actually wants Karen and Zach together. Don't get me wrong. There's a very small percentage of people who actually want Karen and Zach together. Baby, I ain't one of them. I ain't one of them. It's some adults who want them, but it's a lot of young people. I'm talking about teenagers who wants this. And a lot of times people go back and forth with those. And I'm like, no, talk to somebody who actually has sense. Talk to somebody who has experience with relationships, with men, with understanding, postpartum depression and things of that nature. I get all of that. Also, I said all that to say, if you're going to try to make a debate out of what you feel, at least provide receipts. Provide evidence for why you feel the way that you feel. Because if it's just, well, it wouldn't be that way if it was Zach's baby. So then I go on the other side of that. Well, Zach is acting a certain way as well. Zach is grieving. Zach is grieving the loss of his baby girl, a child that he desired, a child that he wanted, a child that he was preparing for mentally, emotionally, financially, all of the sort, that he was preparing for this. And he wanted this. He wanted this child with Karen. So when I see the way that so many people are coming at Karen for the way she's responding, and Zach gets off scot-free for the most part, help me to understand, because that means the same rules should apply to him. So if Karen is responding that way because she wanted a baby with Zach, then Zach is responding that way because he wanted a baby with Karen. He didn't want their foundation or the possibility of them reconciling to come to an end, and this is where we are. But nobody want to talk about that, so it's easy to just put it on, the character that gets pissed on all the time, which is Karen, by the way, if you didn't know, which I know you did. It's just easier to do that. And going back to the postpartum aspect of this, I think that last week's episode of Sistas, as we see Karen and hear Karen's inner thoughts, some people have said that she's never acknowledged her child. She's definitely acknowledged her baby. Karen loves her baby. Right now where she is, she does not have what it takes to do anything with this child. And I spoke about this on our Sister's Keeper with Erica Vane. My mom has never told me this. I'm talking about never shared this with me up until like 3 days ago. My mom told me that when she had my brother, who I'm 9 years older than, my mom went through postpartum depression, and it was severe. My mom didn't want anything to do with my brother. She didn't want to be around him. She didn't want to be bothered with him. So my mom taught me how to fix his bottle, taught me how to change his diaper, how to burp him, and all of this stuff like that, how to bathe him and things. And I'm thinking, I'm the big sister. This is fun. He's like my little baby doll. He's like my little live baby that I get to do all of these things for. And I'm just having a great time doing it, not knowing that my mom was going through her postpartum depression journey, and she didn't want anything to do with my brother. My mom ended up going over to our neighbor's house, and she broke down and she was crying. And she was honest about what she was going through. She said, I don't want to do nothing with this boy, this baby. I don't want to be bothered with him. And I have 3 other children, because it was me and 2 of my younger sisters. In addition, now we have a brother. My mom didn't want to do anything. And she broke down crying, telling her friend, and I love my son, and I don't know why I feel this way. So as I stated earlier, when people talk about their journey, your journey is only specific to you. It has nothing to do with how someone else is journeying through postpartum depression, because it affects every woman differently. Some women it's more severe, some women is less severe. And then you add grief into that, losing a child in childbirth, birthing a stillborn baby, holding your deceased baby in your arms, having to look at this child. In your heart, you knew that you were supposed to take this child home, and you're leaving the hospital with one child while you have to cremate the other. And I wonder if they're going to bring that on the show too, because this was a full term baby. What's going to happen? Is there going to be cremation happen? Something got to happen. I hope they just don't leave it like that, but knowing these writers, they just may. But I'm curious about what's that next step. And like I said, it's only been a few hours. Cut the girl some slack. I'm talking about and this is how I feel too. There is nothing that people can harp on with Karen right now. She ain't doing nothing. So since we can't really harp on nothing, let's just go ahead and say, well, she only acting this way because it's Zach's baby. And I'm like, do people really believe that? And people tell me, well, based on what the writers have written. No, it's not. Because the writers have shown that Karen don't want nothing to do with Zach. Someone said to me, well, can you explain why she asked for Zach in the hospital? Like, she did ask for him. I said, you're right. She did ask for Zach. But I'm trying to understand why you intentionally negated the fact that she asked for Aaron first. She says, where's Aaron? Where's Zach? Yeah, she asked for her man first, as she should have. As she should have. She never asked for Zach to come in her hospital room. She never asked for it. It's just, it just interests me. And people be saying, they be calling people who like Karen the Karen Knights. I think that is hilarious, okay? Is I guess the Karen Knights and the Fatima Holics. That's what I call them, the Fatima Holics. But to me, a lot of them people are obsessed with Crystal. And it's a little deranged. Y'all might want to get yourselves checked. I'm just saying. But the interesting aspect of this is that the way people handle grief and the consumption that we have had with Sistas for these first 5 episodes, it's been very heavy. It's been very traumatic. It's been very triggering for a lot of people. I respect the writers and, them going in this direction, but I also want to know what the end game is, because sometimes I just feel like they take this character through unnecessary BS just for no reason at all. Karen act like she couldn't get over Zach. It took a long time for her to rid him out of her system. And I get it. That journey is not always beautiful, and it wasn't. And it used to piss me off sometimes. She was pregnant for 6 seasons. In the words of Medea, 6 seasons. Ridiculous to have this woman lose one of her babies. Someone asked me during the live for Our Sister's Keeper, do I believe they was going to have Fatima be pregnant for as long as they had Karen? I'm like, absolutely not. They treat Fatima like she's the golden goose. You know she's going to have a better pregnancy experience. You know that's what it's going to be. And we see, the trailer for Fatima came out. Some of the still pictures that have been released. She's good and pregnant. And it ain't been that long. We know they're not going to do anything with Fatima like they did to Karen. It's just point blank simple. So that's why I say no one could ever tell me about the favoritism or the bias. Now, that's a conversation you would have with yourself, because I would never go back and forth, because the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the show. It has shown us several times. I don't know what else has to be done. I even believe once Fatima have her baby, her postpartum depression ain't gonna be jack. She ain't gonna experience none of that. If I'm wrong, I'll come back out and say it. But I don't believe that to be so. But I just had to talk about this because I got tired of seeing my dog just getting dragged through the absolute mud for responding in a truthful way for someone experiencing postpartum depression and grief. And sadly, it's women. When it comes to men, I ain't gonna say I don't give a damn, but somewhat so, how they feel about a woman going through postpartum depression. You would never know what that feels like. Now, you could be a witness to your wife or your spouse's or significant other's journey, but the emotional turmoil, the hormone imbalance, those things you would never experience. You would never know what it's like to carry life, to feel life inside of you, and then to lose that life. That is something that a man would never be able to personally give an assessment for, because you would never be able to experience that. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk, for taking a moment to listen, a couple of minutes to listen to my TED Talk. I appreciate you if you stayed around this long. And if you want to, if you agree or disagree, if you want to give feedback in the comments, you can go ahead and do that. And we can kindly, keep up this discussion there. But I do want to thank you guys for listening. Until next time, I will holler at y'all later, and y'all be safe out there.